This is a general reading for entertainment purposes only. Watching my content does not constitute an advisory relationship such as therapy or legal counsel. I am not a certified medical or therapeutic professional, and my readings do not constitute professional advice. My readings are for confirmation of what you already intuitively know for yourself, not to get answers from me. General readings like this are like forecasting the weather for the entire planet. I can say that it is summer in the northern hemisphere, but summer looks very different from region to region. So please use your best judgment, take what resonates and leave the rest. And now let's get back to the video. Thank you. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bee and I'm the Moon Lodge Mystic. I'm here to talk about this upcoming full moon happening on Friday, January 6th. The moon is going to be in the nakshatra of Punarvasu, which is in Gemini. And right now we have Sun and Mercury in Purva Ashada, which is in Sagittarius. In terms of overall transits, there's things that have shifted around and things that are going to be shifting between now and the end of the month. We've had Mars retrograde in Taurus for a while now, at least a month. And that Mars is going to be going direct on the 12th of January. And we still have Jupiter in Pisces. And then Venus has entered Capricorn and joined Saturn there. Saturn is in the close to the final degrees of Capricorn, and Saturn is going to be transiting into Aquarius on January 17th. And then the Sun is going to enter Capricorn on January 14th, which is going to be a shift. This is the sign of the Sun's fall. It's opposite, or no, scratch that. Aquarius is the sign of the Sun's fall, but the Sun still isn't like the happiest in Capricorn because Sun and Saturn do not really get along. So things will be shifting around that time. And then right now Mercury is retrograde and combust the Sun. We talked about in previous videos how when Mercury becomes combust, this can really affect the way that we're communicating with people. We might feel frustrated or like we're not being listened to, and especially with the retrograde motion, the communication is slowing down. There might be delays. Technology could screw up. People might just plain forget to respond to things. So the reflection, the direction is really inward focused rather than outward communication. We're looking inwards and really checking in with our minds. And on that note, this Mercury retrograde is also going to be aspecting the moon, the full moon. And Mercury rules Gemini. So this is the dispositor of the moon, which is being combust right now. You might be noticing, feeling a short fuse, especially with the Mars retrograde. We're kind of holding in our anger and feeling frustrated with delays. Mars really likes forward movement and to be pushing things along. When he's retrograding, especially in Taurus, he really slows down and might become distracted. The discipline suffers, because Taurus is all about these sensual comforts. So, think of it as someone who's on a health kick, wants to be working out at the gym. Well, right now a pizza and chocolate cake is looking really attractive and is looking more motivating than going to the gym. So it's kind of that situation. So people might be feeling like it's hard to motivate themselves to be disciplined. And now we have Venus in Capricorn, which is really showing us, Venus and Saturn get along, but Venus is all about connecting with others, and we want to connect. And Capricorn is where we seek solitude. and feel more detached. And so part of that is due to dissatisfaction. Like Saturn causes dissatisfaction. So we might be feeling a little withdrawn from people, or feeling like they're not meeting our expectations for, you know, giving us pleasure. And the lesson behind that is that, you know, we really ought to be giving that to ourselves. We should be the source of our pleasure and happiness, and not blaming others for not making us happy. Like, if someone disappoints you, it's because they're human, and humans make mistakes. It's not because they have done something that hurts you, right? I mean, what am I saying? If someone hurts you, that's one thing. But I mean, like, someone's not out to get you, right? A lot of times people are just living their lives and they forget things, or they're trying their best. There's few people in this world that actively go out of their way to hurt people. That's at least what I've learned. I know a lot of people have unfortunate experiences where they continuously encounter these people that are kind of sadistic and really don't care about others. But I promise you, they are not the majority of people. Most people don't want to hurt other people. And if they do, and if they are acting selfish, it's purely because they're just unaware and they don't know better. And most people are motivated to preserve connections. That's a natural instinct. It's attachment theory. This is a natural instinct to preserve our connections with others. So just keep that in mind if you're feeling a little disappointed in others lately, that, you know, most people want things to work out positively in relationships. And this might be a time where things are getting a little serious, where you have to start having some maybe some difficult conversations about where you're at in your relationships. Or, you know, this can also, the good side of Venus and Saturn is that this can really foster like deepening of commitments and loyalty towards one another. But you have to go through those difficult conversations, basically. But in terms of the full moon specifically, you know, the cycle has been really fascinating. I know with the new moon, we started in Mula, which was all about uprooting our beliefs and kind of trying to exercise some discernment, like what is actually a truth and what is a belief that's based in fear, or a story that isn't true anymore. And, you know, really it was all about clearing out what needs to go, what's not inspiring you, and toss that aside, like pull it out by the roots and get rid of it. And that can be a very painful process. It can be really disorienting and threaten your sense of safety, to get rid of beliefs that no longer serve you, because they were there probably for most of your life and they were serving a purpose. They helped keep you safe, and it can feel like you're doing something that feels really vulnerable. At least that was the theme of the new moon. That was around winter solstice, which is the darkest period of the year. So it was really fascinating that the new moon in Mula coincided with the winter solstice, because that was the time when you're letting things go. That was the perfect time to do that. And now the Sun and Mercury have moved into Purva Ashada, which is all about, you know, like the initial victory. This is about initiating victory. Ashada means invincible or victorious. So it's unstoppable, and it's represented by an elephant's tusk. And elephants in India are very powerful. They're very revered as like, they charge forward and they are very, very strong. So the fact that elephants are associated with Purva Ashada kind of goes to show you what the strength of this nakshatra. And so this is where, you know, in Purva Ashada, we kind of go towards what brings us enthusiasm and getting that initial inspiration to move forward with something and to really like charge forward. And what do you need to do to prepare to just be able to hit the ground running from here? And then we have Punarvasu, which is the return of the light. And this is like a really cyclical type of return of the light. You know, it's the light that comes after the storm. And the storm that precedes Punarvasu is the nakshatra of Ardra, which is the storm. This is a nakshatra that's ruled by Rudra, which is the destructive form of Shiva. And he's very furious and angry and just storming, really. And it's very much stormy is the association with Ardra. And so in that sense, Punarvasu is really similar to the star card in tarot, which is the card that comes after the tower, where everything that we had built upon false foundations is destroyed. So really similar to what we were doing in the Mula new moon. We were examining like what's stable, what's sustainable here. And the tower in particular is all about, you know, beliefs and structures that were built on ground that was never going to be able to sustain the type of growth and vitality and success that we were seeking. It was never going to work out, and the tower had to come down. So that's kind of the same energy as Mula. And then we have the star, which follows the tower, and this is where, you know, everything has been destroyed and you rediscover hope. And Punarvasu is all about rediscovering that hope, that things are going to be okay and that the dark never lasts forever. And this is a cyclical thing. Punarvasu is all about repetition. And so we go through these cycles where we experience life, we form beliefs, we maybe get traumatized or hurt or something, and that impacts our beliefs. And then we come to a point where we have to come face to face in Scorpio with our deep emotions and the darkness that we're holding inside ourselves. And then we move into this Mula Nakshatra where we examine like what is the source of our fear and our vulnerability and those dark emotions, and what do you have to do to uproot that, to really move through it. And then you come around again, you know, this is the story of the zodiac and what is unfolding. And then you eventually make your way back to Punarvasu, which is that return of the light. And you know that, you know, all those hard times, they're temporary. And at the same time, the light is temporary as well. But while it's here, you know, you ought to enjoy it. And we have the full moon, which is, you know, shining her bright, bright light on all of us. It's a really wonderful full moon to be experiencing, to be in Punarvasu. And with that being said, it's again really fascinating that this full moon is occurring after the winter solstice, because we are in that time of year now where it is getting lighter out. The days are getting longer and the light has returned to our day-to-day lives. This is really the time of year where you want to identify what inspires you, what really motivates you, and take that into the new year and let it be what directs you and directs your actions. We're still dealing with the retrograde motions between Mars and Mercury, so there's still going to be, you know, some inward reflection. We're not, especially with Mars, we're not necessarily ready to like jump into action yet, but still take this to really identify, like, this is the time of, this is the lunar cycle where, this is the part of the lunar cycle where you're going to rediscover your hope and find your shining star to guide you into the future, but not necessarily jumping into action yet. It's going to be more about gathering your resources and really strategizing about what's going to give you that assured victory, that, you know, what do you need to gather and put together to be able to hit the ground running once this Mars goes direct. And then again with Saturn, you know, we've had to be really disciplined, and we're revisiting that now with the Venus going into Capricorn. This is where we really have to put in the work. It's all good to be inspired, but once these planets start moving into Capricorn, that's where we put the work in to really manifest what the result that we want. So right now is the preparation phase. It's a little more active than the previous phase, the solstice, where we were really reflecting inward and slowing down and embracing the stillness and the darkness. And now we're preparing to be able to march forward towards that end of the month after all these shifts happen when Saturn moves into Aquarius and these planets start to shift into Capricorn and Mars goes direct and then Mercury goes direct. And that's when we're going to be able to really launch into action. So on that note, that kind of summarizes what this full moon is about. It's a quick summary. I did draw some oracle cards, so let's look at those. We have adjustments are required, third quarter moon. And then we have a win-win outcome is forecast. And for self-care cards, we have massage, and we have nourish your temple, and then we have burning bowl ritual. This came out in reverse, and I don't usually read reversals, but that felt kind of significant to me, kind of like you know, what came out to me was that it's like it's time to move on from the letting go, I guess. You know, if you have any last minute things that you've been processing and you want to just like push out of your life, this is like the time to do it, because that opportunity, it's really starting to shift into where you need to start mobilizing your path forward. And then we have preservation. And I'll save the affirmation card for last. So with preservation, like, to me, this is, the thing that I forgot to mention is that Punarvasu is ruled by the goddess Aditi, and this is the supreme mother goddess. She literally forms the fabric of reality. She has given birth to all of existence. She has even given birth to her own father, and this happens over and over again. Like, she's very much associated with cyclical, repetitive cycles of death and rebirth, and particularly the rebirth. And so I really thought that this card was incredible to draw in association with this, because I feel like what's decaying and falling away was really about that mula process that we did of uprooting and discarding. And we have this glowing baby here that's ready to spring forth and bring light out into the world. So that period where we went inwards and we really got in touch with the stillness and reflected on ourselves and really took stock of what needs to go, that's really important, because that's what gives way for this new life to spring forth. So I really wonder what you want to birth into this world. What are you bringing into the new year with yourself? And adjustments are required, and a win-win outcome is forecast. I see this adjustments as what we were talking about with Purva Ashada, about gathering your resources and really taking time to assess what you need to get started with bringing this new light into your life. And overall, we see the scales of Libra, so I'm thinking about balance, and especially with the transit that we're experiencing with Venus and Capricorn. It might be that adjustments are required within our relationships, and it might be that you're not giving enough, or someone else is not giving enough to you, and trying to figure out like what needs to be adjusted to bring our relationships into balance. But either way, like it's an auspicious outcome that's being forecast. And massage and nourish your temple. I think this is really great, especially when we're dealing with this this combust energy and this Mars in Taurus, and again the Venus and Saturn in Capricorn. Like we can start to feel really exasperated and depleted by these types of transits, and the Venus in Capricorn can really feel deprived of nourishment and luxury. So, and especially Saturn is really associated with like body aches and pain, and the Mercury is the nervous system. So when Mercury is combust like this, it can lead to a lot of inflammation. So if you are able to get a massage, a lot of people, I tell people this because not a lot of people realize, if you have health insurance, oftentimes health plans cover massages. They often can be billed as outpatient physical therapy. So if you don't need physical therapy, you might be able to find an LMT that is able to bill massages that way. And also a lot of times just plain massages is a benefit of a health plan. So check into your health insurance, because a lot of people think that massages are too expensive or inaccessible to them, and then they don't realize that their health insurance actually covers this. And I always advocate people to make the most use out of their health insurance. You are already paying for that premium. You should be utilizing as many of the services as you can get off of it. So get yourself a massage, or maybe you can use a massage as an opportunity to connect with your partner if you feel like the physical intimacy is lacking lately. Maybe promising each other a massage is a great way to work that into your life and to relieve any stress that's being held in the body. And nourish your temple. This is really just kind of embarking on the same point. Oh, I see. It just occurred to me how these are mirroring each other. We have an image of a woman, and we have this spiral happening in the womb, and we have this emphasis here too. And then I see the star in her hair. That reminds me of Punarvasu and Aditi, who I'm not entirely 100% certain of this, but I'm feeling like I've seen an image before of Aditi being compared to the goddess, that Egyptian goddess who is the sky. She is the night sky, and with Aditi being like the fabric of reality, she is the cosmos and everything like this. So I feel like, again, this is Aditi appearing in our reading, just as she is here. And this is really just a good time to nourish yourself. It's kind of like the same energy that I get from the star card. Let me pull the star card real quick. So here's the star card. This card, whenever I see the star, like, of course there's like wish fulfillment and hope and things like that, wishing upon a star. But I really always see this as such a soothing, healing card. It's like whenever you've had a really catastrophic moment and all you can do is just sit in silence and just like, maybe you've cried all that you can cry and you're just sitting there and it's just like, what now? I sometimes just the heart of that moment feels comforting, right? It's kind of like, okay, you've gotten it all out of your system. You've cried all that you can possibly cry. Everything got fucking blown up and torn to shreds. You're left with nothing except for like the dirt on the ground, and somehow that feels so grounding to be in that moment of stillness. So that's what that card always reminds me of. And this nourishing your temple, it's like once everything has been cleared away, your attention is freed up towards just your basic needs. Like I've had experiences where I've had dark night of the souls where I could barely eat for a whole week and things were just really challenging. And in those times, whenever I'm having periods like that, I find it really helpful to just go back to basics, to just like all I can focus on today is feeding myself and nothing else, and just making sure I'm fed and that I go to the bathroom. The bare minimum that you need to stay alive, right? So sometimes that's all you need to focus on. So especially if you're having any struggles with transitions and the letting go, just try and focus on what you need to be nourished, which often is a lot simpler than what we think we need. What you feel you need is totally different from what you think you need. And we get a lot of ideas about what we think we should need. And that gets us into a lot of trouble because it usually, oftentimes it leads to neglecting our needs. And if you can learn to just be a little quiet and just listen for what your body is craving and what you feel. You know, I used to struggle with something simple as like deciding what I wanted to eat. Like what sounded good, what do I want to eat? And it was because I was trying to use my mind to make that decision instead of feeling like thinking about different kinds of food and noticing how it feels in my gut to think of that food. Now I decide what I need to eat based on listening to my gut. I imagine different kinds of food that's available to me, like, oh, would I like pad thai? And does my stomach get a little tight and a little, no, I don't want that? Or does it say, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like right what I need. Or maybe like pho, you know, my body never rejects pho. That's such a healing food. But that's what's coming through. So maybe that can be helpful for helping you figure out like what do you need to nourish your temple, because you can feel it. And if you don't feel it, there's a good chance that you're under a lot of stress, which I really feel for you if that applies to you. And the way that you need to work with that is taking time out to get really quiet and to just relax and just reconnect with your body on a way, in a way that's there's no pressure to connect, right? It's just something that has to come out naturally. So not when you're on the go, not when you're rushing to your next meeting, you know, being able to take 5 minutes to just sit and think, what does my body feel like doing right now? And what does it feel like? What's the sensation? Not what you think it should be needing right now. I had to learn this the hard way. I was really not very good at listening to my body for most of my life. And now that I have a lot of free time, it's given me a lot of opportunity to kind of learn that discernment. And I think this applies to a lot of people in our Western busy culture. Kind of funny tangent to be going down, but yeah, another example of that, maybe to kind of help illuminate this concept a bit more, is like the other day I had went on a crazy hike and it was a good hike, and then I came home, and then the next day it was like, oh, well, you know, I gotta film this video, I gotta get prepared because I'm gonna be at a fair this weekend. But I just couldn't get myself to feel motivated to do those things. So I sat on the couch and was like, gosh, how do I deal with this? What do I do? And I listened to my body and I was like, you know what? My body feels really tired. It just feels exhausted. And so I kind of, I made a compromise with myself. I ended up not doing all of those busy tasks that I needed, but I did do some gentle yoga to help with my sore muscles from the hike. And I did some chanting and meditation. And I'm really glad I did those things because it was really what I needed that day. And it helped move some of the stagnant energy that, because I still felt a type of restlessness, but I also felt like I really needed to rest and to be not pushing. Yesterday was not the day to push. Today ended up being the day to push. I ended up feeling a lot more motivated and active. But even then, I kind of hit a snag this afternoon. I was like, oh, I better get on this video. But I really wanted to play a video game. And, I was just not feeling inspired to do the video yet. And I ended up sitting and doing the game. And I played and I got what I needed out of that game. I felt when it was time for me to stop playing the game because I started feeling, like my eyes needed a break from staring at a screen. And then, lo and behold, I felt really ready to get started on this video. So again, it's just about listening to your body messages. That can be kind of when we've got these 3 planets in earthy signs, especially Mars. Mars is like your physical body, and then Venus and Saturn we have in Capricorn, and we've got this combust Mercury and stuff like that. It can help to really tune back into your body and to listen to those needs. So now I think we're ready to move on to the affirmation and start closing this video. So this affirmation that I'm leaving you with is, my day begins and ends with self-love and appreciation. I wake up in the morning loving myself, praising myself, and telling myself, I love being me. I think that's a great card. And especially, again, I keep referring back to the Venus, but just all of the transits can really benefit from practicing self-love and appreciate yourself, really invest in yourself. And when you do that, it becomes a lot easier to deal with other people. Like when you take responsibility for your needs, you then don't, unconsciously become disappointed when other people aren't taking care of your needs for you, right? Because you don't put that off on them, and then you're able to relate to them in a way that's more equal and in the highest spirit of the way that Venus wants to relate to others. So that is it. That's the full moon forecast. Thank you so much for coming. Before I completely sign off, I did want to let you know that I'm going to be appearing at the MeWe Fair in Linwood, Washington this weekend. That's January 7th and January 8th at the Embassy Suites in Linwood. I'm going to be putting up the graphic here. I'm also going to be appearing at the subsequent fairs in February, March, and June. So those are the MeWe fairs. If you are in the area and you'd love to explore some vendors, there's going to be a lot of stuff there. There's gem vendors, there's people selling all kinds of psychic and intuitive services, from tarot to astrology to energy work and Reiki and all that. There's lots of goods and services that you can find there. It's pretty much like going to a metaphysical shop, only it's a giant expo. Admission is $5, and if you do show up, come say hi to me. I'm going to be at a table of my own, so I hope to see you there. And with that, please enjoy this full moon and, take the energy to heart and focus on what you need to gather to ensure your success, and then move forward with renewed hope into this new year. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.